Hello everyone. I'm so happy to be back in Turkey. I had an amazing time at Startup Istanbul, and I want to thank the team for having me back again. So my name is Andrea Barrica. I'm a venture partner and entrepreneur in residence in San Francisco at a company called 500 Startups. And 500 Startups is one of the most active seed investors in the Silicon Valley. Since we were founded in 2010, we've made over 1,500 investments. So what this means is that we make very small bets in a lot of companies all over the world, right? All of the places that you see here. And the reason we do that is because we believe that talent is everywhere, but access to resources, isn't. And we also believe that great things can happen when you give smart people some money, right? Now, we're a seed fund, but we're also an accelerator. And I get to work in our accelerator program, which is a 4-month program in the Silicon Valley where we can bring entrepreneurs from all over the world for 4 months in our office, and we help them create growth engines through sales, through marketing. We help them understand how to do fundraising, and we also help them create a community and a network in the Silicon Valley. So I've been so lucky to work at 500 Startups for the last year, and I've learned a lot. I've worked on 3 batches, so I've been on the investing team working on over 125 investments. And as a pitch coach, I've seen over 1,000 pitches and have helped my companies raise over $60 million. I really do believe that I have one of the best jobs because I also get to travel a lot. I'm really passionate about emerging markets. And today, I want to talk about some of the things I've learned working in these emerging markets. The thing that everybody asks me when I travel is, how does my ecosystem compare to the Silicon Valley? And how do entrepreneurs in my ecosystem compare to entrepreneurs everywhere else, right? I've gotten that question today by some of the Turkish entrepreneurs in the lobby. And the first thing that I've really learned through this past year, entrepreneurs are great everywhere. And not only do they have talent and passion, I think the thing that we all have in common, and I say we because I'm an entrepreneur first, is that everyone is delusional. They're crazy, right? Like everyone has a dream, they're trying to change the world, and pretty much everywhere in the world you go, there are going to be a group of people who are like this, who are trying to solve problems for their community. So it doesn't matter if I'm in Brazil, in Sao Paulo, or if I'm in Split, Croatia, or if I'm in Ghana or Nigeria working with entrepreneurs. This is the Meltwater School, the Meltwater Entrepreneurial School of Technology in Accra, Ghana, right? And I met so many entrepreneurs that are doing amazing things. As for the differences between these ecosystems, I think Leo Tolstoy said it best. He said, all happy families are alike, but every unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. And I think the same can be said for startup ecosystems. The thing that makes every startup ecosystem amazing are the entrepreneurs, the people. But how every ecosystem is not amazing or can improve, it's very unique to the ecosystem, right? And so it typically has things to do with the infrastructure problems, the lack of past entrepreneurs who have had success and mentorship. This is huge. Also, the investing community. Are there people who are used to investing in early stage companies? And I think a huge one is also the culture of risk and failure, right? People talk about the Silicon Valley and how there's so much amazing things happening there, but it's one of the few places in the world where you can go out, start a company, raise money, completely fail, and people will come back and give you money, a check again. They'll write you a check again, right? There's this culture that it's okay to go out and try big ideas, whereas I've been to ecosystems where that's not the case, where a failed entrepreneur isn't looked at as an experienced entrepreneur, but as a failure in their community and can bring some great stigma. And I think these are the things about each ecosystem that I've visited that hold entrepreneurs back. And when these things change, great things can happen. And like I said, the problems that you see here have nothing to do with the quality of the entrepreneurs in each ecosystem. That's one of the definitely top lessons. The second lesson I've learned is that the things that entrepreneurs aren't doing right in each ecosystem typically are the same things, and that's when they're focusing on the wrong aspects of running a startup. And those are things like fundraising, PR, business plans, financial projections. These are things that they read or they study in school, and they're not the things that can really create good companies, right? And the things that create good companies are awesome, balanced, cross-functional teams. So making sure that entrepreneurs are going out and finding the people with the domain experience and the right capabilities to build product and acquire customers is huge. And then growth. So the way that I give this advice in every emerging market that I visit is define what success means for your company. And you might think like this makes so much sense, but often the question that is asked, and investors here probably ask this all the time, right? Why do you need to raise money? Like, why do you need this money? The most common answer that we've all heard is, oh, because I need to hire engineers, or I need to hire salespeople, I need to do all these things. Instead of focusing on, do we have the right team? Did we solve a problem, and is our solution finding it? The right way to answer that question is always, here are these targets that we're trying to hit to get to our next milestone, and this money directly is going to be used that. It's that framing of why we raise money at all, which is to get us closer to or scaling something that's already working. And the truth is that money does not help you when what you're building is not working, right? So proving that is absolutely the most important thing, and it's less important than getting in your local newspaper or being able to tell everyone that you've raised some money. The most important thing is that entrepreneurs are solving problems in their community. The third lesson is also very, very important, and it's brutal honesty, right? It's brutal honesty with not just their investors, but themselves. So in the San Francisco Accelerator, we get entrepreneurs that come from all over the world, and they're always completely shocked at how they get feedback, right? It's blunt. It's really honest about what's not right about their business. And when I visit ecosystems all over, I notice that people are way too nice to each other, or they're just straight up not honest, right? We can agree that most pitches are terrible, right? Most startups, when they go out into the world trying to prove something, have a lot of things wrong. Yet, when I see entrepreneurs interacting in other ecosystems, people are trying to save face. They're trying to just pat each other on the back. And it's because, it's a small pond. I understand it's really difficult when you're in an ecosystem with challenges. But what will help is brutal honesty. And one thing that, where I've learned that in my career is my own team, right? So 500 Startups as a team culture has always been about this type of honesty. And we all know, I don't know if any of you have heard Dave McClure say this, but one of our team culture ideals is that you should stab someone in the front, not the back. And if you see this more in ecosystems, what we'll see are companies helping each other more, and they'll know what to change about what they're doing. And that's absolutely necessary, right? It's also really important because investors need to be honest with entrepreneurs about why they're not investing, and entrepreneurs need to be honest with themselves about why their business isn't working. And so a lot of entrepreneurs that I find continually go out trying to prove something when if the data or the customers are not buying the product, doesn't necessarily mean you need to go out and try harder. It sometimes means you need to be honest about whether your assumption is just wrong, right? And so honesty is something that I think I've learned is super important in any ecosystem. The fourth lesson I think I've heard as a theme today, right, about global thinking. But this is really challenging for people. Like I've been asked today, I'm Turkish. How can I think globally? I want to build for Turkey. And I think that this is a very important distinction to make, that global thinking is a mindset, right? Of course you're going to go after your local market, But what I was talking with my partners today just earlier is that there's this population paradox that happens, right? We see this in Nigeria, in Africa. We see this in Brazil, in Latin America region. We see this in Turkey, you know, and these are places where there's a high population, like it's one of the larger, most populous areas in an area. And what happens is people treat their own home country as the market and don't think globally. So that's one issue, is that people just from the get-go, from the beginning, don't consider building global ideas or building frontier ideas. But the second thing is that I often find that in emerging markets, people aren't reading. They're not out there trying to travel, calling up or having Skype calls with entrepreneurs doing similar things in other markets, right? So it's also a mindset change in that your little ecosystem or your large ecosystem shouldn't be the end of your startup knowledge. It should be everywhere. And to that note, the Silicon Valley is full of people not from the Silicon Valley. We are an inherently global place because we have people who have come from all over. So to make any ecosystem, any emerging ecosystem truly great, it takes a lot of knowledge transfer, and that comes from a global mindset, not necessarily starting globally in an approach. I learned this actually just a few months ago at Startup Istanbul, where the first and second and third place were from all over the world. The first place was from Kenya, the second place was from Indonesia, and the third place was from Iran. And I ended up taking the second place and inviting them to the accelerator program in San Francisco. And it was such a great example of how this, in the world, we were having all of this knowledge transfer happening at the conference. And I do hope that we do see a Turkish startup finish at today's competition, because that was a shock to me, right? So this was something that the global mindset in these companies were clear, and I hope to continue to see that at Startup Turkey. And the last lesson I want to talk to today is that the next generation of startups won't look like the last. And that brings me to my first point that I brought up. I'm tired of people asking me about what the next Silicon Valley is going to be. What I'd love people to hear, what I'd love to hear from people is how they're going to create an ecosystem that's just perfect for what they're trying to do and build global companies there. I want to tell a story. I met a team at the MES school in Accra, Ghana. And this team, I walked into this room and there were all these entrepreneurs, and these three women came up to me. Technical, Android developers, designer, business people, building a product for women across Africa. They had built a prototype. They were just hassling me for advice about their mobile app. They were hassling me for mentors for their Android app. And it really dawned on me then that the next generation of entrepreneurs aren't going to look like the old ones. And this is great for everyone because different problems are going to be solved. And this is what I continue to want to see in the world and why I work in emerging markets, because the next Mark Zuckerberg or whoever that is not going to be from the Silicon Valley. I believe this person's going to come from an emerging market. We believe in this so much at 500 Startups, and we believe in it specifically in Turkey, that we have a team dedicated to making this vision. We believe in Turkish entrepreneurs. One of our best companies at 500 Startups is Udemy, led by a Turkish entrepreneur, and we really believe in the potential for the Turkish market. And so we are really excited to be raising a fund here for Turkey, for the Turkish ecosystem, led by two people that I have immense respect for, and that's Erhan, Erbil, and Enis. If they could just stand up, we should totally acknowledge them. They're my colleagues in this, and I hope that you'll all we are investing in this ecosystem. Please come up to any of us. We would love to talk more. And with that, I just want to say thank you for having me, and I'm so excited to be here again. Look forward to meeting more startups. Thank you.